All right, some new developments emerging about the framework of a deal to end the war between the United States and Iran. President Trump pushing the idea that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, but the question remains, will Iran go along with it? Joining us right now is former nuclear weapons inspector David Albright. He is the president of the Institute for Science and International Security. And David, I think we'd all like to see the world without Iran having nuclear ambitions. How likely do you think it is that they will give up those nuclear ambitions for some of the things that they seem to have been promised?
I think based on just reading the available memorandum of understanding, I mean, you can't have a lot of confidence. This deal is giving away a lot of U.S. leverage. I mean, it's paying a very high price to get the Strait of Hormuz open, and there isn't going to be a lot of leverage left to deal with the nuclear questions. And the language in the memorandum of understanding isn't very good. I mean, it's not even using kind of the standard language that's been developed to say a country shouldn't develop or test or manufacture or produce nuclear weapons. It just uses the word produce. And we know from experience that that creates loopholes, and countries have exploited that. Iran included has been exploiting that kind of imprecise language for years. And so
you mean the idea of the words not being able to test, not being specifically in the memorandum?
Yeah, they're not in the memorandum that is available publicly. Now, maybe
this isn't the finalized version, we should say, right?
But Trump's been making statements that he wants to see improvements in it, and this is one area where I think he's been less than satisfied. But still, this is the version out there that's being said as final, and it has leaky language, and it also has some language that talks about the nuclear issues will be addressed that are mutually agreed upon. I mean, that's not normal language in a deal. I mean, it should just be the issues that need to be dealt with, and mutually agreed could actually exclude robust International Atomic Energy Agency inspections aimed at making sure that Iran doesn't have undeclared nuclear material. I mean, Iran rejects that point of view of the IA completely, and so it's highly contentious view from Iran's point of view, and it will never mutually agree with the United States to look into that. So I think this paragraph, there's two nuclears in two paragraphs, but this one in particular really needs some serious amendments and work, and I hope that this is not the final. Now, there may be side deals. I mean, we had that in the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but the side deals back then, which took a lot of effort to flush out, and the media was important in doing that, made things worse. So it was, in a sense, the side deals can hide the even further problems and are there to hide embarrassments and weaknesses. And I saw Vice President J.D. Vance recently saying that, there are these secret arrangements. I think it was him. Let me not quote him saying it, but there are these secret arrangements. But we should know what this deal's about. It shouldn't be, okay, it's a great deal because you don't see the secret part of it. We should know exactly what it is, and on its surface, it has some serious problems.
David, I mean, this has been the question of dealing with Iran going back decades at this point. The idea that we don't want them to have a nuclear program, the idea that they will give as much as they have to, but they've never been very open or forthcoming. I'm sure you have the sense that they have not followed the spirit or the letter of any of these agreements to this point, that they've tried to evade detection of any of their programs that are there. How do you work within a regime like that?
Well, I think you have to be very tough. I mean, that's the bottom line. And the language should be very clear that Iran has to accept robust International Atomic Energy Agency inspections, and Iran should cooperate. I mean, that's the key word. I mean, this whole nuclear issue can be settled in a few months if Iran cooperates. And I think the language in this memorandum of understanding is kind of timid. I mean, it's not enough to push Iran to feel that it needs to do something, and the memorandum's a bit open-ended about could just be renewed. There's no obligation that Iran complies before it gets the vast benefits that are being given to open the Strait of Hormuz. So I think you have to just be extremely tough with Iran, and I think that could require a return to military strikes. I mean, this is a ceasefire deal fundamentally, and I think if Iran doesn't perform, it should understand that military actions could resume. And so I don't think we should see this as an end to the war like World War II ended. I mean, this is an interim process that we're in, and military conflict could resume because Iran will not abide by even the basic requirements of international obligations like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And so I think perhaps it's not good news for the economy per se, but I do think that this memorandum kind of reinforces the idea that we're in a very unstable situation.
Do the threats ring hollow now, David? I could make the case either way, because the president has threatened many times in the last month or whatever it was. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. We're going to do the bridges and infrastructure, power plants. We're going to do it, and then it never happened. Yet he did do something right at the start that no one ever did before. So it's not like Iran can say, oh, we don't, this guy's all talk, because he really did do something initially, destroying the Navy, just destroying so many missiles. So the threat is there. But at this point, I don't know whether they think they have gotten beyond that, I think, to where they're acting with impunity in a lot of ways for the last month.
Yeah, and I think the deterrence has to be reestablished. I mean, Trump did, and with Israel, did serious damage to the nuclear program, including the parts of the program aimed at building the nuclear weapon itself. And so they've been seriously set back, and that's a real victory of these two wars. And it actually puts Iran in a weaker position, and that's why it's surprising to me to see that it's like the U.S. has put itself in a weaker position on something that was of U.S. victory or almost a U.S. victory. So I think they have to reestablish deterrence, and I do think that President Trump has just made one too many or 10 times too many threats that don't mean anything, and Iran is reading that very accurately and pushing for an advantage.